Hello and welcome here to Talk FCB and welcome back to another video here on the channel today. And again we're going to be looking into the summer transfer window and many more names and many more rumours later. We are here again talking possibly about another signing today in the form of Hector Bellerin. Now the problem is I came here a few days ago, I spoke very widely and very lengthy about Nelson Semedo from Benfica. There was a lot of reports in Portugal linking us with the right back and we thought that potentially he was going to come in and be our big signing of the summer to fill that void that needs filling at right back, because at the start of the season it was a general opinion amongst Barcelona fans that we needed to strengthen the right back area above all else. Midfield is another big situation, but right back is certainly a position that we do need to strengthen. But recent developments in recent days, and particularly in the Spanish newspapers, again links us with Hector Bellerin from Arsenal. Now it's going to be very, very interesting what happens, because this is a rumour now that's gone on for not just this summer. We've had it every single season nearly since he left us, of course. Bellerin was a product of La Masia. He came up through the Barcelona Youth Academy like many others did before him. Started out there in 2003, and it was very, very similar actually his departure to that of Cesc Fabregas. He left when he was just a teenager in 2011. He joined Arsenal's youth setup there. Arsene Wenger nurtured him into the first team, as he has done with many young players over the time that he's been there. And since then, Bellerin has very much sort of developed into very much a first team player for Arsenal. But I think this season more than anything has been a disappointment for Bellerin, because he's not been at his best. He's not been at the level that he would expect to be at, and that is the problem for us. The summer that we're heavily linked with him, the summer that we could possibly sign him, is coming off the back of a season whereby he hasn't really shown that true potential that we've seen possibly flashes of in previous years. So that is why I come here today, and I'm simply asking the question of you guys: should we now be going and signing Hector Bellerin from Arsenal for what is reported to be a massive signing? 50 million euros is what is being quoted in both Sport and Mundo Deportivo this week. 50 million is a lot of money for a defender, but like I always say, if the player is there, if the quality is there, go and pay the money, because you only get what you pay for in this market, and certainly everything's going to be inflated now with the fees going up and up and up. But at the end of the day, you still need to be buying quality for that sort of money. So is Bellerin what we're looking for? Is he the player that will answer our problems at right back? And we're going to be looking at all that and more in this video today. And we're going to be looking into stats, we're going to be looking into his season, and we're going to be looking into his general past with Barca and whether that warrants a transfer this summer to bring him to the club. So basically a little bit of background on the story that was run by Sport just a few days ago. A big headline in the paper, it said Bellerin, 50 million, and the big headline was that Ernesto Valverde had agreed to Roberto Fernandez's demands, because Roberto Fernandez has been going on all summer long. Whenever he's been asked about defensive reinforcements, the name Bellerin has come up, and he's sort of gone along with it. So it seemed like Roberto Fernandez was going to wait to see what Valverde said when he came in. Would he approve the transfer, yes or no? And the big headline from Sport was Valverde does want to sign Bellerin. So it's going to be interesting. I don't know whether that's true. I don't know whether that is exactly what's happened, but it seems like the wheels have started turning on a possible return of Hector Bellerin. Now, the reason why there's actually a lot of negativity about that is not all down to Bellerin as a player. It's a lot down to do with his attitude towards the club and the general respect that he's shown the club since he left. Now, you have to take into account this has not been his greatest season, like I said just a few minutes ago. If we go back to the season before last, where he was really breaking through, he's established himself, he was confident, he was getting called up to the Spanish national team, and he was really firing on all cylinders. He was on good form, he was playing very, very well. Arsene Wenger believed in him, playing him week in, week out. Arsenal were playing pretty well as well, decent in the league. They qualified for the Champions League. Bellerin had a good season, and the season before that, when he originally broke through, that was when Bellerin was feeling top of his game. And the problem was that one of those summers he was asked, would you return to Barcelona? If Barcelona called you now, what would happen? And Bellerin's reply to that was, I wouldn't answer the phone. And that is the problem really amongst us at the moment, looking into re-signing Bellerin. It's not all about the quality, it's about the general feeling that he's had towards the club since he left. He's always said, you know what, I'm not interested in going back to Barcelona. And now it seems like when he's sort of suffered a season whereby he's had a lot of criticism from the Arsenal fans, he's not felt well loved there at all this season. Arsenal, of course, haven't done very well either. They finished outside the top four for the first time in in many, many years. They're not going to be playing Champions League football next season. There's a lot of speculation about Arsene Wenger's future of the club. He's just signed a new contract. Whether Bellerin agrees with that or not, we do not know. But it just seems like it's all sort of a bit of a coincidence that now maybe Bellerin is warming up to a move to Barcelona. Because when he was at the top of his game, when Arsenal were playing well, when he had Champions League football, he didn't want to know. You know, he said, I'm staying at Arsenal. I'm loyal to these supporters. I'm happy here. This is where I grew up in the team. I'm happy. And now it seems like everything's just falling apart for him a little bit. And now he's happy to receive our interest, which, as a Barcelona fan, we see ourselves as, you know, the pinnacle. If you join us, this is a fantastic opportunity for you as a player. We are the elite in the world clubs, which we are. We are a step above Arsenal, let's be fair about it. And it just seems like Bellerin now is almost using that. You know, he's happy to come back now that we're in a much better position than Arsenal are. So it's just going to be interesting to see how this develops, what Bellerin says to the media, whether he's going to come out and talk about it. He usually does. So if he's going to get interviewed at some point, it's going to be very interesting to see what he's got to say. But I'm just interested in your thoughts, because you've all seen Bellerin play. He's a player that does match our philosophy. He's an attacking fullback with very much the emphasis on going forward, which matches what we do. But the problem I have is we had Sergio Roberto this season playing at right back, and we've had Alex Vidal as well playing at right back. And the biggest problem with both of those players were, in the big games, they were exposed defensively. In the big games, you saw it away at PSG, Sergio Roberto struggled. Now, a lot of it is also down to the general structure of the team in the midfield. You've got to have somebody on that right side of midfield who can also do the job defensively. Rakitic has been in and out of the team this season, which has affected things, but mostly that right back position was exposed defensively in the big games against the best players. Now, when I've watched Bellerin this season in the big games against the best players in the Premier League, he struggled defensively, and again, you don't really know whether it's him or you don't really know whether it's Arsenal, because Arsenal, as a setup, don't really defend that well. Arsene Wenger has a system, he tries to mirror what we do. He likes to go forward, he likes to play attacking football, he likes to play passing football, but in terms of defensively, their structure, their general compact, at the back, it's not quite there. They're not quite there defensively. So every time Bellerin has played in the big games, he does get exposed in behind. There's players who can run off him. Sometimes he's caught out of position. He's not always tactically sound. He's very, very good going forward. He's very, very athletic. He's got blistering pace. He's pretty decent in the final third, although this season he hasn't really contributed as much as you'd expect from him in the final third. This season, for example, just the 4 assists in the Premier League for him this season, when you consider that Sergio Roberto himself, who everybody doesn't really seem to fancy at right back, got himself 6 assists. So Bellerin not really contributing as much as you'd expect in the final third, but he can do a job there, there's no doubt about that. But just defensively, I worry about him, because he hasn't really shown it this season. He's not shown the form and the confidence that you'd expect for a player coming to Barcelona. And like I said before, I don't really have a problem with Bellerin's quality. I think he's only 22 years old. He's a player that will improve. He's a player that does understand Barca. He's been here before. It won't take him long to settle in, I wouldn't have thought. There's certainly time for him to improve. He's very, very good on the ball. But the problem I have with him is we're spending 50 million potentially on a player that's going to come in who's not been in the best form of his career. He's going to come to Barcelona possibly a little bit low on confidence, possibly feeling a little bit inferior. He doesn't really feel like he belongs here because he's not been playing well enough to get here. And it just seems like we're paying well over the odds right now for somebody who isn't really coming with a wealth of confidence and good form behind him. So let me know your thoughts on that. You may have watched Bellerin very extensively over the course of the season. Let me know what you think. Let me know when you watch him, what are his strengths, what do you think his weaknesses are. Has he been good enough this season to warrant a move to Barcelona? And certainly at 50 million euros, is it worth it? But also the thing that's being reported more so in the English media than the Spanish media is sort of tying it in that Arda Turan could possibly be involved in the deal. Now, the problem with that is Arda Turan's agent this morning has come out and said Arda Turan is not going anywhere. He's staying at Barcelona. He wants to see through his contract. Now, we all know what that means. The player wants to stay, wants to fight for his place. But the problem is, if Ernesto Valverde comes in this summer and says to Arda, you know what, we're bringing in another midfielder, you're not going to play, things can change very, very quickly. So I wouldn't set that in stone just yet. But the English media is saying that Arsenal are very, very, very interested in signing Arda Turan. So they're possibly putting 2 and 2 together and making 5 and saying that we're going to include Arda in the deal to sign Bellerin, but that would be more economically sound for us, because if we do want to get rid of Arda Turan, and if we do want to sell him on, get him off the wage bill, guarantee some funds from him, it would be very, very sensible to include him in a possible deal for Bellerin coming in. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. Like I say, I think 50 million for him at his current state is a lot of money. I think it's a coincidence that he's very, very happy to join now that Arsenal maybe aren't in the Champions League, when before he was quite happy to turn us away. What I would say though, if he does join, I'll back him. I'll put my confidence in him as a right back. I won't criticise him until he does something that isn't quite good enough. We'll get behind our new signings. We'll support them as Barcelona players. If he does join, we'll get behind him. But right now, as an Arsenal player, I'm not really sure this is the player that we should be pursuing in this transfer market, and certainly not for the massive, massive fee that we're talking about. There are other players out there. We've discussed Semedo already. There's other right backs as well around the world that you could be looking at to possibly bring in for less amount of money and possibly the same amount of quality. So let me know your thoughts down below on Bellerin, guys. I know that you're going to have a lot of opinions on him. A lot of people would have watched him. There's a lot of different opinions, but there is what does seem to be a lot of negativity surrounding this signing at the moment, which is never really a good sign, but you can see sort of why it may be justified. So let me know your thoughts. I'll see you very, very soon. But until next time, as always, Visca el Barça! Barça! Barça!